Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, you guys are all so precious. Hi, my name is Esther Han. I am currently in Los Angeles County or Los Angeles, California, and I'm working as a district attorney office. And how many of you guys know what a district attorney does? See, this is why it's interactive, right? Like I ask questions. Like I'm not gonna ask you to answer questions, but just like respond, okay? How many of you guys know what a district attorney does? Raise of hands. How many of you guys, oh, Levi knows, great. For those of you guys who don't know, it's a prosecutor. How many of you guys know what a prosecutor does? Right, all of these hard words, right? Essentially, I am, or pretty much, I am an attorney who puts bad people away in jail or prison, right? And so have you guys seen lawyer movies or TV shows where they're like, objection, right? And they're fighting in court? That's kind of what I do. I go to trial, I present a case before the judge, and if the other side tries to show ridiculous evidence, then I go, objection, and then I make an objection. And I've been currently doing this for almost 5 years, but in Los Angeles County, I've been doing it for 3 years. And I'll give you guys my contact information later. Are any of you guys interested in law? JT, oh, Heidi, Levi, and oh, hello. Apparently all my legal interest people are on the East Coast because I'm like always looking around here. I'm like, who's interested? But I'll give you guys my contact information later, so you guys can always reach out to me. I'm always here to answer your questions. So first, I wanted to get into talking about my upbringing. For my upbringing, we lived with my parents and my sister. And my parents, to describe, are very typical. How many people have very strict parents? Nobody? Nobody has strict parents? What? Wow, what a generation. I have super strict parents. So I wasn't allowed to have sleepovers. I wasn't allowed to have highlights in my hair. And if I got bad grades, my punishment was I wasn't allowed to wear any nail polish. I wasn't allowed to ever go out with my friends. One time, my American friends, they were like, oh yeah, my mom and I were like best friends. And, I tell my mom everything. I'm like, oh, really? And she's like, yeah, she even gives me boy advice. I'm like, oh man, I want that relationship with my mom. And so I was like, Mom, guess what? I have a crush on this guy. You know what she said? She said to me, if you have time to think about boys, think about school more. Think about studying more. Think about SATs more, right? I started SAT practice in the 7th grade. So that's kind of like an idea of what my parents are like, right? Very strict, very, didn't let me do anything. Even when I hung out with my church friends once a week, we went to go get ice cream after church once a week. And my parents are like, aren't you spending a little too much time with your friends? Shouldn't you be studying in that time? So that was my parents. And then I lived with a younger sister, Tiffany. We're actually living together right now too, but we're very close. When I was growing up, I had a very just average Christian walk of faith, because when I was born in LA and I grew up in LA up until 6th grade, I was in Tarakbang, and I grew up with that background. However, I don't think it ever like hit me, right? Because how many times do you have to listen to the same message and then we're like, oh, like that's what that meant, like, oh, like I get it, got right. And so even when I was growing up, I didn't really quite understand like what it meant to have Jesus as a Christ. And so in that kind of state, I moved to Seattle, Washington, because my parents like got a new job there. And for me, that was a very traumatic move, right? Because from 6th to 7th grade, all my friends, it's a new stage in our lives. We're gonna go to junior high. Like all my friends are gonna go to John Burrow and whatever that other school was. Where was I able to? Yeah. Anyway, they're like all about to go to the same school, and I am moving to a completely different state, with completely different backgrounds. I had never seen frost before. So when I saw frost in Seattle, I thought it was snow. I got laughed at because I was like, guys, look, it's snow. And they're like, no, you idiot, that's frost. So it was a very like traumatizing time for me, right? It was just a lot of, who am I? Why am I here? Why do I have no friends? Why is it so hard to make friends, right? And, in the midst of that, I found church, right? I found a church there because my family, my parents are Christians. And I found a church, but it was a very, just one of those average churches, right? They didn't really know what Jesus Christ meant, right? So always the kind of messages that I heard was, love each other, right? And it's like, oh, live a seamless life, right? Between your everyday life and your church life. Nobody should know the difference between a weekday and a weekend. Like that's how much your behavior should be Christian like, right? And so it talked about a lot about behavior. But I thought that was it, right? I thought that was the answer. I thought that was what church was. And I thought that's what Christianity was. And so I became super judgy. So I became, I was listening to people and I'm like, why are you doing that? That's not right. That's so sinful, and just, you know, it sucked. But I didn't know that it sucked. And, um, the church life that I had was awesome, right? Because I realized now that I went for friends. I went for family because I wasn't allowed to have any other friends. I wasn't allowed to hang out with anybody else. And so these were the friends that I hung to, that I clung to dearly, right? Because, while I was growing up, I was lonely. I was super lonely. My sister is 6 or 7 years younger than me. And so, growing up, I was like, who understands? Who understands how I feel? And because of that, I felt like I was always alone. And so I became obsessed with my friends at church, right? I was always talking to them. I was always, and it was stupid. Like I was, just always wanting to be with them. But it was the reason why I say it's stupid because while I was with them, I felt so lonely and I couldn't figure out why. Anyone looking from the outside would look at me and say, she's not a lonely girl. She's like the loudest one in that group, right? She's the craziest one in that group. She's not lonely. She's not shy, right? But then the reason why I was being so loud, the reason why I was being so crazy is because I just felt like I felt so lonely. I was always the one on the outside, and I never understood why. But because it's all I knew, that's what I kept going for, right? And that was my walk of faith when I was in high school. So you can imagine what that made me like as a teenager, right? I feel like all of the adults in this room are like, oh. But as a teenager, I was very, very sad, very depressed, very lonely. And I was always trying to hide it by myself. And, I tried to leave behind hints. I would like leave my diary open and hope my parents would find it. And I would write things like, I don't want to live anymore. I don't want to be alive anymore. I know that committing suicide is bad because God said it's bad, but like, why am I always so lonely? And why am I so just sad all the time? And why am I the only one who seems to feel this way? Why does everybody else seem to be happier than me? Sorry, I'm crying right now because I know that there's so many kids out there who feel this. And so this is part of why I came into youth ministry, because I know there's a lot of kids out there who are feeling this, who feel that they are alone. Sorry, I told myself I wouldn't do this. So as a teenager, I was very, sad, lonely, and I felt like I never had friends. And even in school, everyone knew me. I was a good academic student, so I did everything. I was in the honors classes. I did ASB, so people knew me. I was outgoing. But I always felt lonely, and I didn't know why. And then in that state, I went to college. Right? In that state, I went to Berkeley, and there it got worse. Right? I got more depressed. I got lonelier, because here's the thing. A lot of you guys are young. Faith, you are so adorable. I love your little mic set. You're so young, right? So I don't know if you even think about what future is like. Unzu, you're super young too. Silas, everyone here. You guys are so young, but I don't know what you guys think of college right now, but a lot of kids, a lot of high schoolers think that when they go to college, all their problems are going to be disappearing, right? They think like, oh man, if I just get there, if I just get away from my parents, if I get away from home, if I can go party, if I can just go make friends, all my life's going to be better. I hate this. I don't want to do this, right? A lot of people feel that. I felt that, right? I just felt that if I get away from my parents who are super strict, I'll be happier. I'll have more friends. And if I have more friends, I won't be as lonely anymore, right? And I was like, college, that's my ticket out. That's my way out. But then when I got there, it was the exact opposite, because I felt even lonelier and I felt even more depressed. And it was to the point where I couldn't do anything. I didn't want to do anything. And then when I was doing something, I was trying to make friends, but I couldn't make friends. At some point, it got so bad in college, I was like, I don't have any friends, so I'm going to buy friends, right? I'm going to, I'm wondering, you guys are like, how do you buy friends? Sororities. The Greek system, right? I'm sure the younger kids don't know this, but like there's a Greek system, but they're known to, all be together, be friends together, party together, hang out together, and they're just like a clique together. But the thing is, you pay incredible amounts of money, like thousands of dollars, to be in a sorority. And so there's a saying that says, oh, if you join a sorority, then you're just buying your friends, right? And so, that's what I did, right? Because I didn't have any friends. And I was like, what's a better way to buy your friends? And so I tried to join a sorority. But the thing about the sorority was it's a matching system, meaning you go to each sorority house and you meet these girls and they rank you and you rank them. And based on your ranking, you get matched. And it's like an interview process. It's like a job process, right? And I did it. And after the first day of meeting everybody, I found out that I didn't match with anybody because none of the girls wanted me in their house, okay? So that was like a super devastating blow to my ego, right? So it's like, okay, I thought that this whole time I didn't have any friends and I was lonely because my parents stopped me from having friends, but actually it's not that, it's me. It's something about me, right? I'm like, what is it? And that made my depression and loneliness and self-esteem go down even more, right? It just hit rock bottom, right? Because even these people who you're supposed to buy, right? You're buying friends. And they're like, no, your money's not good here. That's what I felt. And I didn't understand why, right? And so I started doing things that I never thought I would do because I was like, I want people to like me, right? Why don't I have people to like me? Why can't I have friends? Why can't I just feel like I belong somewhere, right? And so, funnily enough, I went to church. I went to church, but even then, when I went to church, I couldn't find my answer because their answer was, oh, it's okay, just everything's okay. They're like, oh, you want friends? You can have friends, but you can only have friends if you Bible study. You can only have friends if they're girls. You can only have friends. And like all these rules, right? And it seems so like I didn't understand these rules. And everyone seems so like, everything's okay. Everything's okay. But I'm like, but I'm not okay. Why is nobody telling me it's okay when I'm not okay? How many of you guys feel that? How many of you guys feel like, you know, a lot of people out there are saying like it's okay when things are not okay for you, right? And so that made me even worse, right? And so I began to do things even worse, right? I began to party, right? And this is really embarrassing for me to like admit in front of, you know, such young remnants, but I started smoking cigarettes, right? Because in my mind, I was like, oh, it's because I'm ugly. It's because I'm fat. Uh, that's why people don't like me. And so I was like, oh, if I'm pretty, people will like me. And so I started smoking cigarettes because it's like smoking makes you not want to eat, right? That's what I heard. And it makes you not hungry. And so I was like, yeah, that's what I need because I love food. And so I started smoking cigarettes. And then at the same time, I was like, oh, don't I look so cool? The secret was like, no, I didn't. I didn't look cool. But in my mind, I convinced myself, right? Um, and then I started, you know, going out to these parties and hanging out with these people. But then I realized when I came back home, things would always be lonely again. And I just didn't get it. I didn't get it. And that's how I spent a majority of my walk of faith. Right? I went through college like that. I went through law school like that, thinking that one thing after another was going to be the answer to my life, right? This answer of happiness, right? I thought it was friends. I was wrong. I thought it was going out, you know, and having fun. I was wrong. I thought it was, you know, having church. I was wrong. Right? I thought relationships. That's gotta be it. Relationships, right? And so I found a boyfriend and I was in a relationship with him for 7 years. But even in that relationship, even as I was convincing myself that I was happy, I was so depressed and I was so lonely. And that feeling just kept not going away, right? And the reason why I'm telling you guys all of this is because that's why we need Jesus Christ. Because my whole entire life has been this struggle of finding this answer of what is going to make me feel happy, what is going to make me feel peaceful and content. And the answer is Jesus Christ. Now, here's the thing. When adults told me this, I got so mad when I was younger because I was like, I don't get it. How is Jesus Christ going to solve my problems to loneliness? Is he going to come down here and be my friend? Well, first of all, yes, but he is your friend. But second, you know, it's not. I can't hang out with him, right? I can't see him, right? How is Jesus Christ the answer to my self-esteem issues and the fact that nobody likes me? I don't get it, right? how is Jesus Christ the answer to the fact that I'm depressed all the time? Right? And in college, I never found that answer. In law school, I never found that answer. Just recently, within the last 3 years, as I moved to LA, I began to find the answer. And here's the thing, it's hard at first, right? Because you don't get it. This is something that the Holy Spirit reveals to you, right? And it's really God's grace. Because a lot of people, I started in this movement a long time ago with a lot of people. And when I came back 3 years ago, a lot of people are gone. And so I think to myself all the time, like, God, like, why me? You know, why did you bring me back? I'm so thankful. Like, who am I? And in this kind of thought process, I found God's grace and I found God's love. And because of that, I found a value in me, right? This whole time in my life that I thought that I was so unlovable, unworthy, right? I was thinking I was so lonely. But these are tears of joy. I'm so thankful. Sorry, I cry a lot. I cry during weddings and stuff. I'm so thankful now, right? Because it's like, who am I that God has called me to just love me, right? The sororities didn't want me, right? God doesn't care if I'm not funny enough, if I'm not pretty enough, right? God doesn't care if you make mistakes. He loves me. And that's when I started to realize the spiritual reality, right? Because slowly, as God's grace started coming to me, I began to see the spiritual reality. And here's the thing, remnants. Don't be discouraged. If you don't see it right now, if you don't understand right now, it's okay. It took me until my adult years to understand. I had to go through depression. I had to have panic attacks and you know, not be able to breathe. I used to, you know, but God will reveal it to you. And this is how I know. 3 years ago, when I came down to LA, I didn't want to come down to LA. I was like, I hate LA. I'm not going to LA. But my mom was down here and she was like, oh, you know, that guilt trip, like, oh man, it'd be really nice if the family lived together, right? So I applied and I told the pastor of where I'm going right now, the church that I'm serving right now. And I was like, oh, Pastor Park, you know, I applied to LA. And he was like, oh, you're definitely going to go be in it. And I was like, why? And he said, because it's the time schedule of the church. And when he said that, I got so mad because I was like, why is that relevant to me? The church time schedule is not relevant to me at all. I don't care. I'm going to leave the church. You don't even know. I'm thinking it. You don't even know, Pastor Bright. I'm not even going to go to your church, right? But here I am, 3 years later, at his church, serving as a teacher, right? My heart changed 180. That wasn't me. And that only happened when I was able to receive God's grace. I was able to see the spiritual reality. That's what I want to tell you guys today. See the spiritual reality of everything that's around you. Everything that's going on right now, the coronavirus, all these protests, everything that's going across the world, right? You have to understand that there's something spiritual behind it, okay? Ephesians 6:12 says, our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realm. Your fight is against Satan. And if you forget that, then you're going to live an entire lifetime like me, sad, depressed, lonely, looking for answers, not finding answers, even though supposedly, you're supposed to go to church and find it. And I went to church, but I couldn't find it. And you need to know, remnants, that there are a lot of kids out there who are in the exact same position as I was. There are kids out there who are hurting. There are kids out there who are dying. And that's why there's so much drug addiction. I know, Unsu, Faith, Danny, you guys all seem very young. But how many of you guys have seen kids smoking? Or how many of you guys seen kids, talking about drugs? Have you guys? Isaac, Joshua, anybody? Yura, right? Kids are doing drugs all the time. Why is that? It's because they're looking for answers. I looked for answers in everywhere else because drugs were not readily available, but drugs are readily available now. Anybody can get it, right? But that's why your fight is against Satan, because there's so much darkness that you guys are living in right now. And you guys are called as a light, but you guys are not going to see that if you don't see the spiritual reality, right? And so that kind of goes into my next thing, kind of what I do. As a prosecutor, I put people in jail, right? I put bad guys in jail. But here's the thing. What is the spiritual reality behind that? Because the people that I am putting in jail, they also have spiritual problems. They also have darkness. They are also being seized by Satan. And I have to see that. For a while, I couldn't see it. I'm a lawyer, so I'm super good at legalism. I'm super good at saying, oh, this is law. You have to stick to this law. You did a bad thing, right? But Christ says, you can't do that. For all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God, right? They suck just as much as I suck. Just because they are committing crimes does not mean that I am better than them. If anything, I should feel bad for them because I have the answer. God gave me this grace, this thankfulness that I'm crying about right now. It's like, man, God, you chose me. Thank you so much. I could have been like them, right? I could have been lost and suffering, committing crimes, hurting people. Thank you for giving me this grace, and also give me the grace to be able to pray for them. Here's the thing, it's hard. It's hard to pray for criminals. It's hard to pray for people who hurt other people. I had a case where there was a teacher who hurt multiple students, multiple special ed students. It's hard to pray for him, right? It's hard to feel bad for him. But here's the thing. What is the spiritual reality behind it? Why is he acting the way he is? It's because he's been enslaved by Satan. And if as a child of God, I cannot be in that same courtroom with him and break the forces of darkness for him, then why am I there? Right? Why did God send me there? to do exactly the same thing that every other prosecutor is doing, right? And that's what I want you guys to start thinking about when you think about what you want to do in your life. God says it doesn't matter where you end up. I know the world tells you that you have to succeed, that you have to be a lawyer, that you have to be a doctor, that you have to be a scientist or whatever. But God says that, no, whatever you do, do it with Christ and for Christ, right? See the spiritual reality in everything that you do. And right now is great practice for that, right? How many of you guys have siblings? How many of you guys have friends? How many of you guys have parents who bother you sometimes? I see Unsu's hand like, me? Me too. You know, my sister, she makes me mad all the time. But how many of you guys just don't think about it spiritually, right? How many of you guys just get stuck in your thought of, why is my life like this? Why do I have to be like this? Why is it like that? Why can't I have this? Why can't I have that? Why can't I have better parents? Why can't I have a better life? Right? That is exactly the trap that Satan wants to put you in. Right? That's where he gets you. He uses your thoughts against you. Okay? Just like he used my thoughts against me my entire life. I'm still struggling with self-esteem issues. I'm still struggling with the imprints that I received when I was a kid, right? But here's the thing, you guys don't have to be like that. You guys don't have to, get your butt kicked your entire life before you realize how precious you guys are, because God says you are precious, because Christ is inside of you, right? So today, when I came to speak to you, I didn't come so much as a lawyer, but I came as someone who's been through what you guys will go through, who's been through loneliness, who's been through sadness, who's been through anger. But I want you guys to know that you guys are the lucky ones for having the gospel. There are so many kids out there who don't know better. And these kids are growing up and they're entering the criminal systems. And the laws aren't protecting people. The laws aren't protecting people, right? Because here's the thing. I don't know if this is like too complicated. Anything that is done without Christ is for Satan's kingdom. I need you guys to know that. So everything that is going on right now, the Black Lives Matter movement, the protests, right? That is something that's good in the world. The message is all life, like everyone is important, right? That's the message that they want to promote. No one says that message is bad. But here's the thing, they are doing it without Christ. And because they are doing it without Christ, it causes division. It causes more hatred. It causes more violence, right? So that's what you guys have to do. You guys can't be like that. You have to see the spiritual reality in everything that you do, right? Be able to see Satan. Be able to recognize Satan. And be like, Satan, Jesus Christ gave me the power to trample on you. Okay? And that's the message that I want to leave with you guys today. It's not that you have to be a lawyer or being a lawyer is so great it's that one, even as a lawyer, I struggled a lot. That's what I want to show you guys. Even as a lawyer, I struggled a lot. Even with success, I was so lonely, so sad, so depressed. Success was not what made me happy. Money was not what made me happy, right? So that's what I want to leave with you guys. Always see the spiritual reality. Satan is out there and he is attacking kids, just like he attacked me, just like he attacks our thoughts. But the Jesus Christ who is in you has already come and crushed his authority. And then he has given you that same authority. So you don't have to live suffering anymore. You don't have to live worried and scared anymore, right? So I hope that you guys all think of that from now on. Whenever you think of hard situations or whenever you think of your future, like what am I going to do with my life? Or what is the future going to have? Or what is this coronavirus going to do to our lives? I hope that instead of being worried or scared or lonely, that you are able to see the Satan behind it. See the spiritual reality. See your victory in Christ.